Previously on the 9-month cruise, Royal Caribbean tried paying influencers to help their reputation.
They've not said a word about how viral this cruise has gone, but now they're capitalising on it.
Passengers felt disrespected and fought back at Royal Caribbean.
Royal Caribbean, y'all tried it. Ooh, y'all tried it. Y'all tried it with that one.
And the water bottle drama continued as Mark let his opinions be known.
And don't think I haven't seen how vastly different you're treating Christian Hall now that he's aboard. Sending 48 bottles of water to his room. Babe, did you think I was gonna be mad at that?
Now let's see what happens on today's episode of the 9-month cruise.
Right, so we have another episode of the 9-month cruise, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't actually know what episode we're up to now. All I do know is that we've made quite a few at this point, which I really think just puts in perspective how much of a shit show this ship has been. And even though we're quite a few episodes in at this point, this episode is jam-packed with stuff. Like, a bunch more stuff has happened since my last video. We're talking people potentially being stranded, more drama between guests. We've got guests realising they're being charged nearly 10 times more than other guests. And then we also found out that the Ultimate World Cruise had to make an emergency manoeuvre because they nearly hit another ship. But before we get any further, I'm doing that thing again. We're really close to 500,000 subscribers, so if you haven't already subscribed and you're considering doing so, please do. It would help out a lot. First of all, let me give you an update from the last video. Now, if you remember in my last video, a bunch of the guests were disappointed to say the least because they saw a listing on the TikTok shop where the Ultimate World Cruise were trying to get influencers like TikTokers to come on the cruise for free and also be paid to make content on the ship. Now, the reason why guests were pissed off with this was for a few reasons. First of all, they've obviously paid for their tickets and they're creating content for the Ultimate World Cruise that has got millions of views. But there's another point that I didn't really think of when I was making my last video, but when I saw this new video by another guest who's also disappointed by this, the Ultimate World Cruiser, as we can see right here. But when I watched this video, I remembered something that would be another big point why people would be pissed off.
Here's the thing about them, recruiting people to come on board. All of us signed up for one cruise to sell the world with a bunch of people. We did not sign up for 17 different cruises. We did not sign up for things like having to return our pool towels every cruise.
Okay, I'm not really sure about the pool towels, but she actually does bring up a good point, right? When they originally bought their tickets for this Ultimate World Cruise, we're talking back to like my first video on this whole thing. If you remember, there was no option for these segments. The only tickets that you could buy were the full 9 months, or I believe it was split into like 4 sections, fairly big sections. So regardless of how long you wanted to stay on there, you were gonna have to pay a ridiculous amount because even these 4 sections were in the tens of thousands. And it wasn't until people already bought these tickets that the Royal Caribbean realised, oh shit, we're not really selling tickets like we thought we were going to here. And then they introduced these 17 segments for much cheaper. And people even did the maths and realised that if you bought all 17 segments, it would be cheaper than what you paid for your full ticket for the full 9 months. So people already thought like they'd been scammed in that regard, and then when you add on top of that the fact that they're now paying people to come on and do one of these 17 segments, you can see why people will be a bit pissed off. Now, at the end of the day, it really isn't that uncommon for a big brand to like bring influencers, if you want to call them that, onto their service to show videos of it. It's good promotion for them. But I do get why the people on the ship who have forked out a ridiculous amount of money would be a bit pissed off about it. Now, of course, one person who was pissed off about this whole thing that we spoke about in the last video was Anthony Antoine, and he's actually made a follow-up video saying that it seems to have been sorted.
This message is to say, Royal Caribbean, thank you. A group of us met with Naomi today, and I can only speak for myself. I appreciate that we had the opportunity to speak to Naomi. I feel like we were heard, and I can say that Royal Caribbean sent a personal message directly to me.
Okay, so obviously they've had a meeting and they've voiced their opinions, and it seems like they're happy with the outcome, and I believe the outcome is that they've now took down the listing and they're not doing this whole like influencer program anymore.
I also know that what was on the creator marketplace, that has since been deleted. So I do know that much, and that feels better. Royal Caribbean, Thank you.
So yeah, it does seem like they're not doing it anymore. I would love to know people's opinions. I can kind of see both sides of it, really. I can see why the people on the ship would be pissed off of this, especially the people who bought their tickets before these segments were even introduced. But then also, like I said, it's not uncommon for any business to really do this and try and get, like, big TikTokers or YouTubers or whoever else to come on the ship, and they pay them to make videos. Like, so many companies do that. So yeah, I can kind of see both sides. I would love to know your opinions. But now let's get into some newer stuff, and more specifically, a newer member of this cruise, a new character, if you will. And his name is actually chiropractor Greg Banks, or Dr. Greg Banks on TikTok. And about a week ago, he was getting ready to go on the cruise from Hong Kong. I think he was in a hotel at the time, and then he found out that a big section of his journey, being on the cruise, just got cancelled out of nowhere.
I'm trying so hard here. I'm supposed to get on the world cruise tomorrow from Hong Kong to Cape Town. And I just found out yesterday my portion from Dubai to Cape Town was canceled for no reason. I've been on the phone with them. They have voice recordings on February 27th, 28th, or 3rd and 5th of me calling in saying I wanted to stay on that leg. But yesterday, while I was trying to have fun with my family, I saw that it was just canceled out of nowhere.
Yeah, again, this is completely baffling. I don't get how unorganized this cruise is. Like, how has it got to this point? Because you've got to bear in mind the prices people are paying to go on these cruises, right? You would expect the best service possible. And the last thing that you would expect is that a bunch of your destinations just get cancelled out of nowhere. And this has been a theme of the cruise since we started covering it. It seems like they rarely actually ever get off the ship. So now calling it the Ultimate World Cruise just seems like a bit of a lie. It seems like it's like just like a mediocre, infrequent cruise. Doesn't really have the same ring to it, I do get that. But yeah, let's hear a further explanation from Greg. How's this even happened?
My wife and kids are sleeping, have no idea what's going on. I'm trying to get this figured out. And I guess there's only one person right now at Royal that can even help me. Jonathan Holgate, if you're out there, please help me. But he's off today, and I'm not blaming him, but I'm supposed to get on the ship tomorrow, and I literally just stood in the hallway, and I don't know what happened. They have the recordings, but there's only one person there that can maybe reinstate it, but they can't even confirm 100% that my cruise that I paid for and I reconfirmed is there. I don't know what to do.
I mean, again, how does that happen? I would love to know what the explanation is. And I feel really bad for him watching this video. In hindsight, it seems like everything did get sorted in the end. But I mean, he's saying here, he's in the corridor in his hotel room. His wife and his children are in like the hotel room and they don't know anything about this. They're probably really excited to go on the cruise. So not only can I imagine he feels like really devastated himself, but he now feels like he's obviously going to have to tell them and let his children down. And I can imagine that's just an incredibly shitty situation to be in. But like I said, it does seem like this ended up getting sorted, thankfully. And I think one thing that was a bit mad to me when I saw this is that he's obviously saying that he's going from Hong Kong here. That was going to be potentially one of the journeys that I did, I believe. Like when I was looking to actually go on the cruise, which I do want to say something about that in a second. So when I was looking, this was one of the sections that I was actually thinking about, but I don't know if it's anything to do with the fact that he's going from Hong Kong and everybody going from Hong Kong had this problem. It might just be his order in general. But also, let me address the cruise thing very briefly because there's still a few comments here and there and I'm assuming they just haven't seen me like explain it. So obviously a little while ago, I set a like goal on one of my videos and said that if it reaches a certain amount of likes, I'll look into go in the cruise. I did say like, I don't know if I definitely will, so no guarantees. But yeah, I said I would look into it, which I did. And I actually got really close to booking it, but it became very apparent to me that the majority of the people watching these videos don't want me to go on the cruise. Not because it'd be like bad content or anything, but more just because it'd be a shit show. They don't want me to go through that. So I ended up making a poll to see if people wanted me to go on the cruise, and the majority didn't. So that's the reason why it's not happening. And I mean, it means I can just make content about it from here. So I just wanted to clarify things because there was comments on my last video saying like, oh, how come you're not going on the cruise? Did you just lie and all this? So yeah, I just wanted to address that. But unfortunately for Greg Banks, even though he did manage to get it sorted and go on the ship, the drama hasn't really stopped with him, or at least what he's witnessed, because he has made a follow-up video talking about some stuff that he's now seen on the cruise.
Just wanted to say, be nice to each other. We're on the Ultimate World Cruise. We should be enjoying it. It's a long cruise. Some people are on here a lot longer than me. We're only doing 60-some days. Some people are doing the whole thing. But the other day in the Safari Lounge on the Serenade of the Seas, I saw 4 white people playing pool and 4 Asian people playing pool. Everyone was loud, having a good time. Not a big deal. You're in a pool area. What's not okay is them mocking the other race, acting like in their tone and pretending to be super loud like them. Obviously, this caused a lot of conflict, and security had to get called.
Like, what type of people on this cruise? The amount of stories that we've heard now, the amount of situations we've heard with people on the cruise who are just behaving in a disgusting manner, It's outrageous. Like, you're meant to be on holiday or vacation for the Americans. You're meant to be having the time of your life, right? You're on a fucking cruise, traveling the world. You've got all these facilities around you on the ship. You've got a pool, all this stuff. You should be having the time of your life. You should be relaxing more than anything. But it seems like people are doing anything but that, or at least some people.
The other day I was on an excursion, and when we were going to get off the bus, we got a spring roll given to us ahead of time, like 2 minutes before. It was a big spring roll, and first off, it was delicious. This was in Taipei. Well, the lady, when we got off the bus, kept saying, okay, everyone need to get off the bus, get off. But a lot of people were still eating their spring roll. Me, being a bigger person, ate it pretty quickly. So I'm like, okay, I'm in the middle of the bus. I'm like, I guess I should just get up and get off. And there's already a couple other people got off. As I'm doing this, is walking by, someone, a couple rows up after I get right past him, grabs me by my belt and pulls me back. He said, hey, you need to wait for me. That's etiquette. He was still eating his spring roll. I said, sir, the lady that's directing this asked everyone to get off. I figured a lot of people were still eating their spring roll and would get off in a moment. I was just trying to get off to not cause conflict. And he said, I don't care how long it takes me to eat my spring roll. You will sit behind me until I'm done and then get off when I get off.
What the fuck, man? Again, what type of people are on this ship? I mean, we've got spring roll drama at this point. Like, what is the line here? It just seems like everyone hates each other at this point, doesn't it? Like, it does not sound relaxing in the slightest. No, Anthony Antoine, who we spoke about earlier, actually commented on this video and said, shame, I can't say I'm surprised though. There's so much I haven't said and I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm glad you're speaking out and so sorry for your real experience. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we haven't heard as well, and the stuff we have heard is already bad, so it doesn't look good, does it? And just when you thought that the ship couldn't get any further away from being relaxing, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, they had to do an emergency maneuver because they nearly hit another ship.
Emergency maneuver to avoid hitting a ship that was not following the route.
Yep, as you heard, we just had to do a maneuver to avoid hitting another ship. Wow. I would first like to give a shout out to the captain and his team for keeping us safe because that was scary.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people talking about this situation and they have said, like, it was literally terrifying. Apparently the ship moved a ridiculous amount, which Jenny is going to go on to explain. But yeah, I mean, it sounds scary. Now, judging from the story that we've heard, especially from what the captain said, it doesn't sound like it was their fault. It sounds like another ship wasn't following their route. But again, I mean, how many bad things can happen on this ship?
Just started a new segment on board the Ultimate World Cruise. And we had just been leaving the Hong Kong harbor. So when the ship started to tilt in the way that it did, we knew it couldn't have been because of rough waters. We had a feeling something was wrong.
And by the way, this is just after they left Hong Kong, meaning Greg had just got on the ship after all the problems he already had. He's probably thinking, what on earth am I doing at this point? Let me off.
And suddenly we felt the ship tilt so much, Drake passage levels, but out of nowhere. Then we heard in the schooner bar, glasses shattering, and we immediately ran down to the 5th floor deck to see what it looked like outside.
So I just wanted to keep you informed of what's happened.
Turns out there was a ship that was very dimly lit. It was on the wrong course. So we had to do a very sharp turn to avoid that ship.
Yeah, I mean, that does sound really scary. Luckily, no one was hurt, and the captain did a good job, it seems like, but fucking hell. Like, when do the negative things stop happening on this ship? I need to know. But now to end this video, we're going to talk about a situation that I don't know, like, exactly what's happened here, but it's obviously pissed people off, and rightly so. Now, to give some context before we get into the newer stuff, and by the way, I just want to mention that this stuff is from Beth Ann on TikTok, that's where I saw it. But to give some context to this situation, about a week ago, Adita was trying to get her son to go on board for when they went through Africa, and she was quoted over $10,000.
For Africa, they basically came out and said, we don't have a third person fare. So eventually, after back and forth, they came up with my third person fare, and it was over $10,000. By the time I paid the fees and the taxes, it was probably closer to $11,000 for him to be on for the 42 days of the segment.
And yeah, by the way, I'm pretty sure this is to have her son in the same cabin as her, so not even in a separate room, to the best of my knowledge.
Because even the per person fare for somebody wants to get a brand new room that gets sponsored, they're paying only $6,000 to have their own room. So a couple, a husband and wife are going to pay almost the same amount as me having a third person in my room.
Yeah, so in her own room, right? Which makes zero sense. She's been quoted nearly $11,000 to have her son go in her room when a couple can get their own room for $6,000 each, I assume. Now, why I wanted to include that context is because yesterday, it seemed like tickets went on sale to go through Africa on the Royal Caribbean, the Ultimate World Cruise, and the prices were a lot cheaper. I mean, again, this is from Beth Ann, but as we can see right here, 11 nights in Africa intensive for $1,300. Now, obviously, Adita said her son would come on for 42 days, so it's longer, but even if we times this by 4, it's nowhere near the $11,000 that she's been quoted for her son. And again, this is for your own room, where Adita got quoted for her son to go in her room. Now, it seems like this listing has since been taken down, because if I go to the website, I can't see anything that matches that. It says, unfortunately, we did not find any cruises that match what you selected. So it seems like it's been taken down. I don't know if that's because people complained. Maybe it was a mistake. It wasn't supposed to be posted in the first place. I don't know, but it was there at one point, and you can see why that would piss off a lot of people. If I was Adita, I would be fuming. But yeah, that's it for the video. Like I said at the beginning, it's quite mad to me that we have made so many parts to the series at this point, and there's still this much stuff happening. I mean, there's still so many months left. I think, what, there were 4 or 5 months into it now? There's still quite a few months left. I don't even know if they're halfway yet. I think they may be just over halfway, depending on when they got on. I think it was in December. But still, there's a lot more time for stuff to go wrong, and it seems like stuff is still going wrong pretty much every single day at this point, so I would love to know your thoughts on everything that we spoke about in today's video, but I'm going to leave it there. So if you did enjoy, please leave a like down below, subscribe if you are new, and until the next one, I'll see you guys in a bit. Alright, goodbye.